Everyone. Conversation with Coaches 9. I get to have Lindsay. Lindsay loves to lift. Lindsay Gray join me. She'll hop on the live soon. Unfortunately, it takes like 3 to 5 seconds. Oh, my phone is slipping. The fun of live. It takes like 3 to 5 seconds when she hops on and sends a join request. So when she gets on here, we'll get her through. There's a lot to talk about with Lindsay. This is a very diverse coaching experience. Someone who has spent a lot of time in the fitness field. She's a mother. She has several different platforms in which she teaches and coaches people. So it's a little bit different than a traditional coach who just focuses on powerlifting, because she focuses on other aspects as well. And she also has a lot of experience dealing with both competing and also injuries and getting, increased awareness through like Dr. Andrew Locke, Mike De La Pava's work with her a lot with rehab and stuff like that. Who does her programming coach. He just sent the view request. A lot of information to provide us and give us, and I get to have a fun conversation with her, which is something I rarely get to do because we're both, despite the fact that we live like 2 hours away, we're both very busy Floridians. There's Lindsay.
Good. How are you?
What's happening? How are you today? I didn't throw you off your schedule or confuse you with the IG Live thing, did I?
I'm totally confused, but that's just the way I live my life.
Most people are like, why don't you just do these on Zoom? Because I like that people can contribute and say things below and offer things, and it's fun that way. And then I get the audio from both, and I do upload them to YouTube so people can watch them. I was just describing you to a little bit, or describing some of you. You'll be able to give us more. But you started off generally in the fitness field, right? Correct? Teaching group fitness and things like that, doing personal training, personal fitness, which is phenomenal. I think every coach should do that because you really learn how to teach and cue when you work with Gen Pop, because they just don't get it. So you have to explain things. And then as you started competing in powerlifting, you really grew to a very passionate person who wanted to offer this to more people, which is what most coaches lack. They just want to make an income. They don't want to offer that empowerment. That's really what I want to talk about, because you and I have had this conversation where strength really empowered you to be loud and be bold, which we both are, which I enjoy. So let's talk about that, how you started in fitness. And I know that you told me when I was at the store meet about your one-to-many coaching program. And I want to go over that as well, because you said something that was very impactful that I wanted to touch. But right now I want to talk about your journey from starting from general fitness, how you found strength.
I think I literally stumbled into powerlifting because I didn't know that was a thing. And I remember training for like a bodybuilding competition at one point, and I just wanted to compete in something. And I thought that like that's what I was supposed to do. And I think I did it for I don't remember how long I did it, but I wasn't having fun. And I liked the training part of it. And I remember saying like, gosh, I wish there was just something, I wish there was a competition where I could just lift. And I figured out that there was. So, and I was like, I don't want to do this things. Part. And the stage aspect of things never really appealed to me anyway. I was very nervous about the thought of that anyway, like bikini heels, which is funny because I'm kind of glam, but that just has that appeals to me and zero as far as like being on a stage. And I don't think that I could stand there and receive criticism. I'm like, I did my best. Like, tell me I did a good job now. And they're like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Like that judging, it's not for me. So then I figured out what powerlifting was. I think I talked to a friend, and then a couple quick Google searches later, and I was signed up for a meet, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I think I had a hand-me-down program, like a template from a friend of mine that was actually a CrossFitter, but she did a powerlifting meet. And she gave it to me, and I followed it like half the time. And like, I was like, this is not enough. Like, this isn't enough, because I was used to doing so much volume that it felt like I was doing nothing. It was like 3 sets of 5 and then like 2 accessories, and you're done. I'm like, this can't be it. So I was always off program, doing way more than I should have. But, and I didn't have the right belt. I didn't have the right shoes. I think I ordered a belt like 2 days before on Amazon. It just got there because I had like a Vallejo, like tapered belt. It was a nightmare, but it was so fun because I didn't know any of that was wrong. So it was like this, I was just like, how hard can this be? I don't know, like, oh, this isn't ideal or this isn't ideal. I didn't cross my mind that things weren't ideal. I was just like, well, I'm just going to go lift. And like, I loved that because I just went and lifted.
Yeah, that's the best part. It doesn't matter if you know what the fuck you're doing, you're going to have a good time.
I can just wing this. I should probably not wing this, but I'm going to. And I had so much fun. And actually, that's when I met my coach, Mike, because I'd never seen an adjustable bench before. I'd only really worked out in a commercial gym. So he was like doing rack heights, and I thought he was the guy that was supposed to do rack heights. And so he's like starts walking away. He starts walking away, and I was like, "Where are you
Damn.
going?" He's like,
He was
he was
probably
like, "Are you
highly
lost?"
offended. And next time I see Mike, that's the first thing I say. I'm like, are you
He's
here
like,
to
"Are
do
you lost?"
rights?
He's like, "Where's your coach?" I'm like, "I don't have one." I was like, "Can you help me? I need your help." And he's like, very reluctantly, I got my bench height that day. And then now he's my actual coach, which I always thought was funny. It's like my favorite story.
So those who don't know Mike De La Pava, he's like super
Yeah,
militant. Everything is structured and organized. There is no room for chaos. So Lindsay asking him for random help
yeah.
without even knowing him is a
I came
complete
in like
chaos
a
in his
whole
world.
wrecking ball, and I was like, "No, I'm sorry. I'm your problem now, pal."
Well, all these years later, that certainly paid off for him. All right, so that was your first meet. Let's progress from first meet to becoming an elite lifter yourself. What were the steps along the way that brought you there? From knowing nothing and the fuck it we ball attitude to, okay, I'm going to take this
So
serious. What
after
do I
that,
have
I
to
met
do?
a really, really nice girl there. Her coach gave me a couple programs. Or I think it was just like I think he had a gym in South Florida and he like kind of just handed out programming for like everyone was running the same thing. I think it was like 5x5 maybe, I don't even remember. But after that I met or I started following Lannis. I was coached by Calisthans Power Lannis for I want to say like 2 years. I can't remember how long I was with Lannis, but he taught me so much. It was like going from uh a very USAPL 5x5 right into conjugate. So it was like learn as you go. I feel like I've done everything I've had done early on was just figure it out. So at 5 o'clock in the morning when I would lift at Storm, I would march up to the front desk, poor Andrew, the opener. I'm like, hey, I gotta set up chains and I don't know how to do it. So once again, someone's unwillingly going to have to help me.
I like to I like to point out topics that people may have missed. And your intro to powerlifting was complete two different contrasts. It was the OG 5x5 strong lifts, Texas method style, right into conjugate, which are two very diverse styles. One is ultra specificity and one is absolute, novelty all over the place, left and right. And so the learning curve for each is very different. 5x5 is
Yep.
just squatting, benching, and overhead pressing and a deadlift once a week is super easy. Going to extreme conjugate from somebody who uses more of like a West Side style approach with a lot of accommodating resistance and a dynamic effort and max effort is completely different. What you learn in between all that space is astronomical. And so when people always like, well, who did she work with? What did she learn from? Like, that is the learning method. She went from the most extreme basic to the most extreme complex and everything in between, which is what people don't spend time doing. They jump into powerlifting from one program. They never diversify, and then they
But
want to
yeah,
teach it.
you
It's like, well, wait, you only have a hammer. Where you basically create
yeah,
a toolbox in the first
I
two
learned a lot.
years.
I learned a lot
That's a
for
great
sure.
approach.
And I attribute that to Lannis. He never treated me like I wouldn't be able to figure this out. He was just like, figure it out. You have all of the, luckily, I had all of the equipment there at the Storm, and I had a lot of really strong
Yes.
people that were willing to help. Everyone is always super willing to help. And I think that that's something that people just like, if you have access to a powerlifting gym, go. Even if it's an hour drive, even if it's like 45 minutes, like if you can get there once a week and just ask a shit ton of questions, because I don't know when it became uncool to ask questions, but if I don't know, I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it's just someone's, don't interrupt someone's training, obviously, but if you don't know what they're doing and they're really strong, go ask them why they're doing it. You might learn something.
Some coaches get a little offended. I don't, but some coaches get a little offended when somebody else asks a question to them, like you're questioning the process, or when another athlete asks another coach why something works or why because they want to learn, they get a little offended. But that's like an insecurity. That's a scarcity mindset, in my opinion, as opposed to abundance mindset. And I think that we should always be learning. We should always be asking and evolving. And looking back, where I was 1 year ago versus 5 years ago, where I am now are different spectrums of education and application. So I definitely commend you for always wanting to ask questions. And
Yeah,
I
I
know
was
you've
gonna
asked me
say,
some
I
along the
know.
way on different things and even got offended
Yeah, I
that you didn't
remember
want.
doing that with Lannis. I was like, hey, do you think these are good, or what's your opinion on this? And I don't think that I think that you have to take that approach. Like, what's your opinion on this? Why do you think that? Because you're gonna give me a different answer
Yes.
than like Ryan. Ryan gives me different answers than Mike, but at least I have many points of view.
Yeah. and you're going to create your own principles and your own opinion and viewpoint of it based off the information you have from different areas. That's a great way of learning. All right. So I want to bring up the one-to-many approach because you're the first coach I've had on here who has a one-to-many approach on your trainer. What's the name of your trainer road program? Lift Like Liz. Lindsay. Okay. Lift Like Linz is on Trainer Row. You can find it. When you created this, you told me why you created this, and I want you to go over that for other people. Lindsay's a mom, and at one point was dealing with some personal hardships in her personal life and didn't have a lot to invest in this and needed something to get something. And one thing she wanted to do was give back. So you want to explain what that was, why your coaching program is your one-to-many coaching program
So I made a very low price point because when I was a stay-at-home mom, I didn't really have like a ton of extra cash to put towards like a coach or a training program. Training programs at that time were kind of like one-off, like you buy the template or whatever. And I'm like, I can't do that. I've got a special needs kid. I don't have an income myself. I was married at the time. But it still felt wrong or selfish. I feel like moms always do, like, you know, we don't want to spend a ton of money on ourselves. So I was really adamant about making that affordable for people because I think that it's important that you have a solid training. Like all I needed was a plan. I knew how to exercise. I knew how to put things together, but I wasn't always confident when I was putting programs together. And I just wanted something to follow or at least like something to look at and base my training off of, almost like a validation, like, yeah, you're doing this correctly. And I needed to give that to someone else because I feel like a lot of moms feel that way.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that you do because you've even done podcasts related to the topic, you know, of moms that are either stay at home or even single moms that have very little time and very little financial needs. Financial means, sorry, but you're giving them the opportunity to have a program and an outlet and an empowerment with that. Do you mind talking about the price point you have on that?
And you get 4 days a week with an option of 50.
Which is,
and it's just general. I mean, it's not customized to any one person, obviously, but there are general weaknesses that you can address, especially in females. And it's not only for females. There are a couple of guys that follow it too, but there are general weaknesses that you can bring up for almost anyone. Lats, like you can assume that there are certain weak points that we can bring up, and I just try to add those in and tackle as many as possible throughout the entire cycle. And they're doing great. Lots of people have made lots of progress there, and I just think that it being affordable is important because, like I said, especially with moms, they don't like to spend money on themselves. They almost refuse to.
Which you're bringing that opportunity to a lot of moms to get out there and do that and to get stronger and to understand what powerlifting means in the program. And that is incredibly commendable because, like, most programs like that are like 40 or 50 a month, even though they're somewhat generalized program because 80% of the work is something everybody needs to do.
But
if you're a specificity
but if you're a mom, you're already probably, but women in general, just like you're already paying probably $30 or $40 a month for a gym membership. And I think that that's why people don't go into like picking a program on top of that because it's another added expense. So at least the price point can be low enough that they can have both.
That's really awesome. I think that's cool that you do that. And so women understand why it's there. It's not that it's not worth anything. It's actually making it more valuable to you, but making it more accessible to you. So you have what she didn't have or what she needed at the time, which is a really cool way of giving back. All right, let's talk about individual coaching because you started individual coaching. What do you look for in an athlete? What is your demographic, your marketplace? Who reaches out to you?
It's mostly females. I've had a couple males reach out, but I coach mostly females. A lot of strength athletes or a lot of people interested in becoming strength athletes or just strength is usually the goal. I have some general fitness or like Gen Pop that just kind of lean toward wanting to be a little bit stronger. And then I have my studio girls that are like, that's HIIT training. So that's mostly like, these people are learning fitness, period. They're learning to like be introduced to movement. So those are some of my favorites though, because when you introduce someone to movement, it's pretty cool.
Talked about that on his Elite TS Table Talk podcast. So like his favorite client success is like the Gen Pop mom doing pull-ups. You know, it's not the guy who lifts stone. It's a Gen Pop mom who feels good enough to do pull-ups and then crank reps
Yeah.
at because she never thought she could. You know, the strongman competitor is towards that stone. He believes he can one day and will. She's like, I didn't know I can do this. So it's like mind-blowing, which is absolutely true. You get that Gen Pop person to do something that is unusual in their lifestyle. It's so much more gratifying. Not that the powerlifting
Yeah,
isn't
there's a ton
gratifying,
of
but it's
passion
cooler.
for powerlifting and being at the meet, and that it's so fun, and it's probably my favorite. But there is a there's a soft spot and a special place in my heart when someone's first like box jump, or the first time both of their feet ever leave the floor, um, because they've never jumped before, because they've never done anything athletic before. It's
Yeah.
such a big deal, and like that joy is they might as well have deadlifted 500 pounds.
Is that what makes you passionate about coaching? The
That,
empowerment?
and just I think I have a very deep appreciation for movement in general, because I think that people just take for granted the fact that we can move, and I don't like it. Like
Oh yeah.
your body does exactly what you ask it to every single day, and you're gonna throw a tantrum because you missed a very heavy squat. Your body still showed up for you. Like, maybe appreciate the fact that you can move.
So real world example of that. Your last meet, I was your head ref. You botched your second deadlift attempt, and most people would throw a shit fit there, you know. But Lindsay just kind of just like took it off, came back, and then nailed it on her third. And when I'm gonna say botched her second attempt, like it moved like 1 inch off the floor. You don't usually come back and hit your third after that. So that was a mental of not wanting to quit, which was pretty cool to get to see that in person. I literally had the best seat in the house where I had the front row seat. But it's one of those things where, like you said, you're gonna throw a tantrum because you missed a heavy squat, and that's what you're there to see if you can or can't do. You didn't throw the tantrum, you didn't freak out. You just kind of looked at Mike and said, you know, let's run it back, let's try it again. I can do better.
Yeah, fixed it.
I think that's huge.
Fix it.
It was broken.
Again, but
So
better,
I fixed it.
As Ryan would say, again, but better.
Yeah, do it again. That's like Johnny Mazza. When I spent a couple weekends ago with him, he's like, that's his like coaching. He's like, do it again, but do it better. Makes a lot of sense. All right. So you have had an issue that brought you some interesting attention. You had a hip issue, if I'm not mistaken, and Dr. Andrew Locke was brought in to help you. How has that changed and advanced your education working with someone of that level who specializes in human movement, rehab,
So
recovery
it made
science?
me a lot better at asking more questions and asking the right questions. Um, when someone when someone at first is telling you, I was really bad about this in person before kind of I got into strength training, was like, this hurts. I'm like, okay, stop being a pussy. Like, and that was just because that's what was taught to me. Like, oh, well, you're just kind of being a pussy, so get over it and keep moving, shake it off. And I always kind of had the mindset of like, oh, if I don't admit that this hurts, then it doesn't hurt. And then you get to the point, and then you get to the point where it's just
We'll
gonna
just
shove that right down
realize
there and
that pain
never
and deal
bring
with
it
it.
up again. And then it got to a point where it was like leading to poor movement patterns, and then it got to a point where it's like I can't squat the barbell. So working with Locke, it's like asking the right questions, having the right amount of volume to not make this worse, but maintain strength. And then testing things to make sure, like, does this hurt? Does this, like, it's basically asking so many questions that you almost annoy the person. And also made me very aware of what kind of pain, and I'll attribute this to Mike too, finding out what kind of pain the person has. So like, is it burning? Is it like sharp? Is it dull? What kind of pain are you in? And no one had ever asked me that before. And I was like, what do you mean? It just hurts. Like, this just hurts. I don't know.
No,
And I couldn't describe it. And that was
yeah.
pissing me off that I couldn't like express the type of pain I was in. Because sometimes you don't know where it is, which is not abnormal. But when someone can't tell you what kind of pain they're in, it's hard to help. So that awareness was.
Yeah, coach is being able to draw out that explanation and communicate with the athletes. And it's like, that's the first thing I will ask them was like, okay, where does it hurt? What does it hurt when you do? Describe the pain. Is it a searing? Is it something that when you contract, you only feel it? Or if you're holding load, you feel it? Because you cannot help someone who doesn't give you the information, and that person can't help themselves, like you said, if they're not asking the right questions to the
Yeah.
authority
So making people
themselves.
aware of those things has helped a ton. I have a girl now who couldn't squat at all, and now she's box squatting with no pain. And there's just nothing better than a message like that. Like I went from not being able to squat the barbell to this. It's so cool to get someone out of pain.
Yes, that is huge. And again, it falls back to your passion for empowerment. I think that shows pretty strongly. All right, so you have worked with Dr. Andrew Locke to learn. Mike is your coach who programs your powerlifting. You also work with Ryan Silva, who does your nutrition. What is your nutrition aspect like? Do you help people with nutrition
A
personally?
select few. I don't like to do nutrition. I don't enjoy that part. And I think partly comes down to having been like, as a kid, we ate balanced food all the time. My mom always had a very balanced meal, a starch, a carb, a starch, a vegetable, and a protein every meal. That's what they look like. So that's what a meal looks like to me. So nutrition isn't something that I've always really struggled with that much. I don't enjoy doing nutrition for people because it's just another. Sometimes I have a hard time grasping why you can't do what the paper says. Like,
So yes, for those who are not in the know who haven't yet, if you write powerlifting specific programming or body strongman, you're going to get about a 90% follow through rate on everything that's on that program, which is pretty good. But when you write nutrition programming, you're going to get like a 30% follow through on that. And you have to remind people that this was your choice, this was your goal, this is what you want,
so
and I
I
can't
don't
do this for
offer,
you.
yeah, like
And
I
it can
don't
be
offer
very
cognitive behavioral therapy. Like I can't make you, like that's just not my specialty. Yeah, like you could have done what it said, you chose not to. I don't like do it again, but better. Like that's what. So nutrition is frustrating to me because oftentimes people, it goes to them not following the program. But if they, and then they get very discouraged and they get very upset. I do have to do it at the studio sometimes, and it's frustrating to me because it's like you had the plan, you knew what you were supposed to do. What do you want now, and what do you want most? That's the only thing that I can ask you at this point because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and it's frustrating.
So let's get the pro tip in because I know you eat very well, but I also know you like chocolate chip
Whenever
cookies.
I'm
And when do you work in those cookies?
I
It's
yeah,
all about
I just think
balance,
that
knowing
people
when you
have
can
that
have
all
it.
or nothing mentality when it comes to food. And even like before Ryan did my nutrition, it was very easy for me to just eat what I was supposed to eat what I had mapped out for the day. I prioritize protein. And then if I want something else, I just have it. And then I just jump right back on plan because it doesn't have to be all or nothing. The day doesn't have to go to shit because you decided to have a pizza for lunch. You just eat what you're supposed to eat the next meal and get right back on track. And I think that people get so obsessed with that, like
Yeah,
all or nothing, just like training. Like, oh, I missed one training session, so now everything is wrecked and I'm just going to have to start over next week. No, you could have done the other 3 training sessions and just missed one, but you chose to miss 4. And it's just like, it's that all or nothing. Like people, for some reason, when within a fitness space, people have that mentality and it ruins things or it wrecks stuff.
this is probably why you didn't want to bodybuild because there was no way to
That's
balance in those
exactly what it
cookies.
was. I was like, listen, I just want a Pop Tart. I don't know what your problem is.
That's very true. And one meal doesn't make a whole day, and people will go off the rails on one meal, myself included. I'm not intending to be an all or none guy, but I've learned how to have portion control and balance now as I'm currently like melting for no reason. I have
I know I
jelly
saw
beans
those were
literally
so
post workout and a
gross.
bunch
I
of
was like,
them.
oh, fucking jelly
Uh,
beans.
there's Starburst fish. It's a potent
I
combination.
don't like jelly beans. I don't like any gummy candy. I think it's gross.
Ah,
Any like, if I'm
it's
gonna
the
eat that, I would
texture.
rather just eat the fruit. Like, why would I have a strawberry flavored something when I could just have a strawberry? Not for the health reason. It's just like this doesn't even actually taste like strawberries. So it's just what you
Yeah.
think strawberries taste like because someone
No,
told you that. It's lies. It's a jar full of lies. That's
it's
what you're eating.
true. You're not wrong. It's a jar full of lies. Trying to balance it and put it for now for performance reasons. But I do love fruit. That's the okay. So you're gonna hate me. I don't
Yeah, I think you
actually
should
eat vegetables
grow
except
up.
for corn.
Like grow up.
Um, I really I should.
No.
You grow up first. One one of these days, I do eat fruit. an abundance of fruit. My main carb source is literally just either white rice or fruit, grapes, apples, oranges all day long, strawberries if they're in season. But I do not
I
love
think that's so
vegetables.
strange.
But
Have you ever had a
yeah, I
Brussels
can't take
sprout?
it. They're gross.
I love Brussels.
Yes,
Anything green.
I have. I have choked. I don't like green. I have choked down broccoli. I have like shredded spinach. I can do if it's like mixed with like scrambled eggs or like some kind of meat or
So
something like that. But I
leftovers.
just
So when we were
can't.
growing up, my mom would make us put something green on our plate, whether it was a green bean, salad, broccoli, whatever it was. There had to be something green on your plate. It was literally a rule. So, but I'm thankful.
You're from O-
Yes,
you're from Ohio.
yes.
They live like Ohio. I'm literally Florida, born and
That is
raised in South
so
Florida. I
weird.
am Florida man. We have a totally different. We don't play by the rules here. You've seen what happens to Florida
I
people when
mean,
they
I
go
just
crazy.
think that everyone should try as an adult eating vegetables because like I get it when a 10-year-old says it, but when a grown person looks me in my face and is like, "Yeah, I don't eat vegetables." I'm like, "You what are you talking about? You're an adult." I just
Choose not to. However, I supplement like a motherfucker. So I have tons of like green supplements, green powders. I'll put those in drinks. I will drink them rather than eat them.
all right.
That I can do. It's a compromise. Now, let's segue into that. Because you are someone who deals with general fitness often as well as strength world, what are some supplement staples that you usually
A
recommend to your
probiotic and
clients?
protein powder, creatine. That's it.
Give me your why. I mean, pretty obvious gut health. Protein powder to make sure
Yeah,
they're hitting
and
their protein
creatine.
targets.
And I think that is pretty much all people need. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that supplements serve a purpose, but I think generally, especially in Gen Pop, people aren't doing the other things that push. Like it's like they want to train like a bodybuilder and take all of these things because they see these really jacked people doing it, and I'm like, they need those because they're checking all of the other boxes.
Right.
Their diet's always on point. Their food is measured. Their workouts never miss. They're doing their cardio. They're drinking all of their water. They cover every base. You are struggling just to get to the gym and you're asking what supplements are more important than others. And that's nonsense. Go do the basic shit. Go to the gym, drink enough water, and eat enough food that is eat whole foods. Then, after you've mastered those things, then worry about what supplements you take and take a probiotic.
But first, yeah, in psychology they have like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and in performance-based and health-based and goal-based nutrition, that's kind of what you're looking at. The hierarchy of needs is like start at the bottom,
The
and then
very
supplements is
top
literally
of
the
that
very,
hierarchy,
very
yeah.
top one
It's
percent.
just it
Yeah,
doesn't.
bottom that
I mean, a protein.
doesn't
Don't get
matter.
me wrong, protein absolutely. If you're someone that doesn't get enough protein or just it doesn't like to eat in the morning or whatever, okay, that makes sense. But you don't need any of that other shit. You don't need it. You want to believe that it's going to make uh, you want to believe that it's going to fix everything when really you're not doing the basic shit.
Placebo is a
I
powerful drug.
sometimes,
If I spend
I was
200,
going to say,
it
sometimes
will
I
be
wonder if
better.
it's just like motivating that it's almost like investing, maybe like it's investing in this
Yes.
journey, which I understand to a degree. It's like, okay, well then buy more than one protein powder if you need to be invested in this. And like, like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that complicated.
Buy yeah, all
Yeah,
different
and,
flavors. So
and
you have
enjoy that.
variety.
And you don't really need to do all of the extra shit per se to see results. You just need to keep showing up and do it over and over and over consistently for a very long time. It's like, it's not sexy. You just have to stop trying to make it sexy. It's going to be boring. You're going to do the same thing over and over. You're probably not always going to want to do it, but you have to if you want to get where you want to go. And
Some people really like
sure.
vanilla. Vanilla can be sexy. Especially put like sauce on there, some chocolate sauce. You can make vanilla look pretty damn good. You're 100% right. I'm very big on the basics. It's the fundamentals that build everything, and all the intangibles and extra that people do really don't contribute other than the bottom of the pyramid. So big on the basics. I like that. I know this year you traveled to several meets to coach people. How
So
was that
fun.
experience?
It's like one of my favorite things. Being there, and I think that having your coach there is something special to people. and having them be able to make the call for you in real time rather than just have like a list and a plan. Having them there to support you and make that call and make sure that you're sitting down and doing what you're doing and you know, herding cats basically it's probably the coolest part.
Cool. Is that your favorite part of
I
coaching?
think
Is
it
actually getting to
I
do the
think that
in-person stuff at
it's
meets?
probably one of my favorite parts. Yeah, wrapping knees and um, making calls and getting everybody ready and seeing their face in real time when they get it. That's the coolest part.
Nice. All right. Let's talk balance here since we brought up balance a lot. We brought up that you have kids and you did mention you have a special needs child and you basically have three avenues of jobs as far as group fitness, personal, the one-to-many, and the individual coaching. How do you balance your day and your structure to make it work for you around
So
all of that?
I figured out a hard way that I have no choice but to get up earlier or I'm going to be up very late. So I try, especially lately, I found that. So I try to, depending on whether or not the girls are in school right now, they're not in school anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. But I just make a list. I have my little tablet, and it's like a notebook, but it's not a notebook. And I just make my little list, and I have to check them off. So at the beginning of the day, I'll have my coffee, write my list out, and then I'm just crossing things off. And anything that doesn't get done goes to the top of the list the next day. And that's kind of how I live my life because
Do you the day
it
before or do
depends.
you make it the
Sometimes I'll
morning
do
of?
it the night before, or if I am adding things at the end of the day that I realize I've forgotten. But I always say that balance is bullshit because if something is perfect, if something is perfect, something else is probably lacking. There is a pile of laundry in my laundry room, like as tall as me. I call it Mount Doom. It's not going to get gotten to today because I have too much shit to do. It's just like there's always something's always lacking. But if I'm getting done what is most important, then I feel like I've accomplished something.
You mean to tell me you're a real person off of Instagram, that you have real responsibilities in a real life? How dare you? You're ruining the
Just keep that
image.
on the DL. Are you gonna edit this, right?
No, there's
Well, just don't
no
tell
edit
anyone,
this
okay,
live is
guys?
out there. Everyone knows. I've literally been to social engagements and meets where people are like, wow, you actually do exist off of the internet. I'm like, yes, I'm fucking
Not
human.
AI generated.
So I like the, the checklist is a great way to do things because it's task oriented. Like you put priority at the top of the checklist, here's the bottom of the checklist. Anything that's not done and was not a priority that needed to be done that day, so it gets moved over to the next day. And I really think a lot of people neglect that aspect of making their priority list. Like you mentioned with the food aspect, there's a priority list. Whole foods first, putting a vegetable on the plate, having your protein source, a starch source, eating balanced meals. And people will jump to the top, which is the supplementation, instead of starting at the bottom. And your checklist model is basically building your bottom. Like you're mapping out, here's everything I have to do today. And you also acknowledge that means getting up earlier to do so, which means you had to make a personal sacrifice. So I often agree with you, and I say that often, that balance is bullshit. It's just a matter of what means more to you is what you're going to accomplish. You know, people who talk about balance are usually making justifications for not doing the shit they have to do. Instead, they're just doing what they want to do because balance. But doing more of what you need to do gets you more of what you want. And that's what you mentioned there is getting up earlier, making your checklist, checking them off one by one, going for the most important tasks first and down the line. I think that's huge. All right. So I have this fun question I like to ask everyone because I get different perspective and different things. What is one book you'd recommend that everyone read? It does not have to be strength.
Atomic Habits.
Atomic
We
Habits, James
did.
Clear. We had a discussion about this, about we tend to fall to our systems rather
Yeah.
than rise
I
to our
think that
goals.
people should, yeah, if anything, take away from that, you have to set your realistic expectation of what you could do on your worst day if you want to be able to consistently do that. So,
I
like,
like.
stop setting expectations or
Okay.
goals for yourself for every day to get things done based on your best day and your best outcome or the, you know, most perfect stars aligned type of situation. Like, what can I do when I'm at the bottom and I'm struggling? Then make that the goal.
This is the big openers for meets. So I'm like, this is what you can hit
Yeah,
on your worst day. That's your opener.
exactly.
Go from there towards your best day. But this is your opener. Open heavier than what you can do
I
on your worst day. It's
agree.
too heavy
Yeah,
for an
just
opener. Get in the damn meet.
get in the meat. But I would say Atomic Habits probably. And there's also this really short book that I loved called The Dip. I don't know who wrote it. I can't remember now.
Godin.
Yeah, I love
Seth
that
Godin
one
wrote The
too.
Dip.
Just because
He's the most interesting man.
I don't know. I don't know how I stumbled on that book. I think someone might have recommended it to me. I can't remember.
He wrote the book called This Is Marketing. He's been on the Tim Ferriss podcast like 5 times. And literally, if you just type the name Seth into Google, the first thing that comes up, that's all Seth Godin, just from his first name
Wow,
alone.
can you
It's
imagine
incredible.
being that famous of a Seth? There's so many Seths. It could have been Seth anyone.
But he's the Seth. Yeah, he's written like 29 books. They're all marketing based and story based. And now he has like a passion project that's called like the Carbon Footprint or something like that, about how to make the world a better place for the environment, something to that effect. He's doing the circuit again on podcasts. And I love listening to him because he tells amazing stories about creativity and artwork and learning how to create your vision and express it to other people by listening to their needs, which is really cool. So that was an interesting one that you brought up, The Dip. It is a good book. All right, how do people contact you if they're interested in your Traineroic, if they're interested in your personal coaching
You can
one-on-one and the
go
whole
to
nine?
my link tree right in my Instagram bio, and it will take you to a link, and it will send me an email.
All right, is there anything else you want to discuss or share with everyone while I got you?
I don't think so. Should I have more? I mean, what do you
Like,
want
don't
to
put me
talk
in a spot,
about?
dude.
Training, life, what? No, I think I'm good. Thank you, though. Let's talk
Let's.
about life.
You're welcome.
Well, we're
Holy
on a
shit.
tight shipwreck. We're on a tight
I
shipwreck
wasn't prepared.
around here. I don't know if you know. So
You're one of those memes where everything on the world is on fire and the car's flipping
this
over
is
behind you and the
fine.
boat is sinking.
This
You're like,
is
this
where
is
I
fine.
thrive.
Life's good.
Okay, I control chaos.
Right? All of us. We do our best work when our backs against the wall. So I do appreciate your time, Lindsay. Thank you so much. It was awesome getting to talk to you again. And I will share the link with you when it finally loads up to YouTube, so you can share that as well. And of course, I'll tag you in collaborator, so it'll show on your page as well.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Happy Thursday.
Have
Bye.
a
Wednesday.
good one. It's Tuesday.